Ooh, that looks tasty.
There's danger in the west! Ferocious orcs are raiding and pillaging, and behind them comes the mighty dragon Goliath. You are a guardian, one of the 5 rival heroes sworn to defend the realm. The king has decreed that you must work together to find weapons and shields, search for artifacts, and call on the power of magical spells, all while bringing villagers to safety within the castle. There are many guardians, but only one can be the guardian of the realm. Will you answer the guardian's call? Welcome, folks. Today, The Hungry Gamer is back with another game review. This time it is of Guardian's Call, designed by James Hudson and published by Druid City and Skybound Games. Now, Guardian's Call is a bluffing and deduction game for 2 to 5 players. Now, I have it set up here for 3, and the 3 players that I have selected are Raven the Mage, and she gains an ability, extra coins for each spell that she receives, and that'll make sense in a little bit. Zira the Priestess, and she gains bonuses for each artifact she receives. And Marcus the Archer, who gains bonuses for each villager he receives in an offer. And here I will show you their miniatures. Here we have Raven. And here we have Marcus. And here we have Zira. Now, before I jump into the full explanation of how it works, let me just show you how to do the setup. Each player gets their player board, and the player boards don't do much other than tell you what the end of game scoring is for the most part. And then each player also gets a token representing every other character that is out on the board. Then the next thing that you do is you set out the quests, and I've already drawn 3 and set them out. And you'll see that you have the Glory of War. Have no villagers in your tableau when you get to the council phase, and if you successfully do that, then you gain 5 victory points. And the council phase will make sense in just a minute. Then we have Focused Preparation. Have only 2 types of Guardian cards in your tableau, again at the council phase. And then Deadly Blades have exactly 3 weapons in your tableau in the war phase. The next thing that you do is you set up the treasure deck, which is you just take the treasure deck, you shuffle it, and you put it right here. And just for your knowledge, if you gain a treasure, and I'll tell you how to do that in a minute, you gain that many victory points, and you can exchange 1 Guardian card type from your tableau with another player. And again, that will make sense. But each of the treasures have a different ability and are worth different points. The next thing you do is you set up the castle track. And that is this right here. And as you gain villagers into your tableau, you will start to be able to move up this track. And as you move up, every time you pass one of these stacks of victory points, you will be able to take it for yourself. And you'll see it goes 5, then 4, then 3, because there are 3 players. And that happens 3 times, 1, 2, and 3, depending on how far up the track that you get. Then the next thing that you do is you set up your market deck, your Guardian deck. And those comprise of spells, villagers, artifacts, shields, weapons, and curses. Clearly everything except for the curses are good. And depending on the number of players that you have, it tells you how many of each card goes in the deck. In this case with 3, there's 15 of each, so I have this big fat deck that then I will need to shuffle. Okay, once you have shuffled your deck, you divide it in half, just roughly, doesn't have to be perfect, and you take the top half and just put it aside. Then you divide your half into halves, so now roughly fourths, and you take the council card and you shuffle it into the top of that second half, so the 3rd, 4th, and then you shuffle that portion up and you put it directly below the top half. So that means the council card will be drawn in the 3rd, 4th of the deck. Then you do the same thing with the war card, and you take that and you stick it into that bottom 4th, and you give it a shuffle. And then this will wind up going onto the bottom of the rest of the deck, meaning that the war card will not be drawn until you get to the very bottom fourth of the deck. The next thing that you do is you set up the market. And let me slide everything down here so it's a little bit easier for me to access. And the market is very simple. You just put out 5 cards. And we have an artifact, a shield, a spell, another artifact, and a third artifact. Then the last thing you do is each player gets 3 cards. And I'm going to put these down face up so we can see what's going on, but they would be hidden in your hand. The last thing I'm going to do before I show you how the game works very quickly is explain how you win. Clearly you win by having the most victory points. In this game, it is kind of a foregone conclusion that the heroes are going to win. The dragon will be defeated, all the evildoers will be crushed. So that's a foregone conclusion. The question is, which one of you can do it best? Who can get the most supplies in, and who can be the most amazeballs hero out there? And so scoring takes place, for the most part, in 2 phases. The first time you'll do scoring of any kind is when that council card is drawn. As soon as it shows up, it is played and you score. And what gets scored during the council phase is any of the quests that say council on them and the castle track. Because as you gain villagers, and you will see how that happens in just a minute, for each villager you gain, your character moves up the castle track. And if you ever would be landing on the same square as another player, you actually shunt in front of them. So Zira here, if she got 1 villager, she would actually shoot all the way up to 4. And so just for sake of argument, we'll say we get to the council phase here. Now, in addition to these being picked up as players pass them, you look at who has made it the furthest on the council track. In this case, Marcus is the furthest, so he would gain 10 victory points, and he would just go right to the box and grab 10 victory points. Oh, that's just a 5, but you get the idea. And then Zira here would gain 5 victory points because she is in second place. This will score again when the war card is drawn as well. As I said, when the war card is drawn, you finish out the turn, and then the game is over because war has begun. Again, you will score this castle track again, and then you will check for any of the quests that you have completed for the war phase. But then you get into the real scoring of the game, and I've grabbed another of the character cards here so I can show you easily. At the end of the game, you're going to look at your tableau, and I will explain how you build your tableau as soon as I finish explaining scoring. And for shields, if you have 1 shield, you get 3 victory points. If you have 5 or more shields, you get 20 victory points and everything in between. Spells are wild cards. I will explain that in a minute. Artifacts are things that once you have 3, you are able to turn them into treasures. You do that throughout the game. I'll show you that in a minute. Weapons are scored at the end of the game. If you have the most weapons, you get 20 victory points. The second most weapons, you get 10 victory points. Third, fourth, or fifth, you get bupkis. Villagers, as I've already said, for each villager you bring in, it moves you up the council track and are scored twice during the game. And then there are curses, and I'll explain what must be bluffed in a minute means, but as you play curses, it costs you cards out of your tableau, and I will explain that in just a moment. Now, we are ready to play. So this is how the game works. So the very first thing that you do is you refill the market to 5 cards. We're already there. Then you draw up to 6 cards in your hand. So if we're starting the Raven here, she has 3, I must draw 3 more. And now I have a hand of 3 artifacts, a villager, shield, and a weapon. And you'll see that I chose for Raven to just draw directly from the deck. I'll show you the other option that you have when I do Zira's turn in just a second. The other thing that you can do is you can spend 3 coins if you've earned them. You're about to see how you get them. And you can buy a card directly from the market and put it into your tableau. Your tableau being the cards that you have out in front of you that you have claimed, that you have brought into the castle. Then after you've done that, you're going to make an offer to another player. And you must make an offer to another player every single turn. And this is the bulk of the game. Now, I showed you at the beginning that you have these other character markers of the characters that are not you. And you have to make an offer to every single character before you can make an offer to that character again. So just for sake of argument, I'm going to make an offer to Marcus. And so what Raven would do is she would flip over her Marcus marker, showing that she's made an offer to him. And then she's going to look at her hand of cards. And she's going to offer as many cards as she wants of one type. And so for now, I have all these artifacts. Let's do it. So I'm going to say 1, 2, 3. I'm going to take these 3 artifacts, and I'm going to say, Marcus, I got 3 artifacts for you. No need to look at it. This is definitely 3 artifacts. You'll help me help you, Marcus. Help me help you. And Marcus is going to decide. Either they believe Raven, that Raven is actually giving him 3 artifacts, or they don't. And this is the core of the game. This is the bluffing. This is the social deduction. Right now, it's true. I actually have 3 artifacts. And if Marcus says, thank you, Raven, that is so kind, I will gladly take your artifacts. Bully for him. He gets 3 artifacts, and he takes these 3 artifacts and puts them in front of him in his tableau. And then Raven will take 1 coin because she did not get any cards in her tableau. Then, on the other hand, had Marcus said, no, I don't trust you for a second, Raven. I think you're a big fat liar. No, those aren't artifacts. We would check, and they were artifacts. Then they would go into Raven's tableau, because Raven says, well, fine, if you don't believe me, I'll just take them myself. And it goes into her tableau, and Marcus would gain that coin. Now, the reverse would happen if I said, with these same 3 cards, I said, hey, Marcus, here you go. These are no big deal, but here's 3 weapons. These are 3 weapons. I got a lovely battle axe and a spear and a sick-looking dagger. You really need those. Now, had Marcus said, oh, thank you, I really wanted a new dagger, and taken these, we flip over, we find other artifacts, they would go into Raven's tableau because she tricked him. And then Marcus would get his coin. At the same time, if Raven says, oh, hey, here's 3 weapons for you, Marcus, you really need these. And Marcus is like, no, definitely not weapons. I got all the daggers over here already. And we flip over and we find out they are artifacts. Then Marcus gets to take these artifacts and they go into his tableau and Raven gets the coin. And so you see how that bluffing offer works. Now, I'm going to pause here and show you how the artifacts works. Because if you remember, it does say that artifacts, you can exchange 3 to draw 2 treasures and keep 1. So Marcus could take these 3 artifacts and say, I'm trading these artifacts in for some treasure. Discard those, and he would draw the top 2 cards of the treasure deck, and he picks one. We have the Crown of Beneficence. It's worth 12 points for him. Give 1 card from your tableau to the player with the fewest cards. So at the moment, there's nothing, so that would be great. But let's just say that if he had 3 cards here, and there was 1 card here, and 2 cards here, he would take one of the cards from his tableau and pass it on over here. Or he could take the Mythic Mirror. It's only worth 4 points, but he can exchange 1 Guardian card type from his tableau with another player. So he could trade 1 card out with another player. And it doesn't really matter, I'll just take that for the moment. And then the other one goes on to the bottom of the treasure deck. Then it moves into the next player's turn. And this time, I'm going to have Zira draw up to her 6 cards, but she's not going to draw from the Guardian deck. She's going to pull stuff from the market. And she's going to grab a spell. Now a spell is a wild card, and you're about to see how that works. A shield. And you know what, we'll draw 1 more from the deck. And another artifact. Clearly I did a wonderful job of shuffling. And then she would make her offer. Now, it is important to say again that you can lie about what kind of cards you are giving them, but you must give them all of the same type. So I couldn't give this and say, oh, I have 2 weapons. I couldn't say I have 2 shields. I can't make this offer at all. But I could say, just give out 2 shields. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to make an offer to Raven here. So I flip this over and I say, Raven, buddy, pal, I got 2 shields for you. Don't you want these shields? They're just great. And we'll say Raven says, oh, yes, thank you very much. They flip. Raven gets the shields into her tableau, and Zira gets a coin. Then it moves on to Marcus's turn. Now, remember the first thing that you do at the beginning of your turn is you refill the market. Now, we have a curse. Curses serve 2 purposes. One, if you have 5 coins, you can say, I'm going to pay 5 coins and remove that curse. You pay 5, the curse goes away, and you are rewarded with 5 victory points. The other thing that can be done with curses is you can try to give them to other players. And Marcus here, I will just draw 2 more cards, has 3 curses. And so Marcus doesn't want these curses. They're useless to him. But so what he can do is he can bluff with them. And he can say to, oh, why not, we'll do to Zira. Hey, Zira, you look like the type who's a holy person. You're a priestess. I got these 3 lovely artifacts here for you. Don't you want these artifacts? And if Zira says yes, she has been cursed. The 3 curses must go into her tableau. Because she has been cursed, she gains a coin. Anytime you are actually cursed, you gain a coin. Had she said, no, I don't believe you, then they would have gone on Marcus's tableau and he would have been cursed. Now, the curse works differently depending on how many curses you get. Now, I'm just going to throw some cards out here into the tableaus. And so, as you can see, if you receive 1 curse, you have to sacrifice a card. And let's say that this is Zira's tableau. In her tableau, she has 1 weapon, 1 shield, and 2 curses already. She's already been hit with a curse. She gets 1 more, she has to sacrifice a card. So she gets to pick a card, she's clearly going to pick a curse, and throw it away. It's been sacrificed. If she receives 2 curses, then the person who gave her the curses gets to sacrifice or destroy one of her tableau cards. So she receives 2 more curses, then Marcus gets to pick, and clearly he's going to pick something else, and he will destroy her weapon. It goes out of the game. If you are to receive 3 curses, then the opponent steals a tableau card. So not only have I given you 3 curses there, Zira, but now Marcus gets to steal one of your cards, and so Marcus will take those shields over to his side. Now, the only other thing that you need to know is how spells work. Spells are very simple. They are a wild card. If you wind up with spells in your offer at the end, or you buy it for 3 coins directly out of the market, you have 2 choices. You can either add it to an existing field in your tableau. So Raven here could add it to her shields. Now she has 4 shields. Or she could add it to her villagers. Now she has 2 villagers. Or she could put it over here. At the end of the game, if that's what she has, that is worth nothing. But if later on she gets, say, an artifact, she can take that artifact and add it to that stack, and now that is an artifact stack, and she has 2 artifacts instead of just 1. And so that is the way the game works. You play through constantly refilling the market, constantly drawing hands from the Guardian deck until you get to the Council card. Get to the Council card, you score any Council quests, and you do a scoring on the Villager track, and then you keep playing until you get to the War card. The War card comes, you finish the turn, and you score again. This time you do again the Castle track, you score any war cards, and then you score everything else. And so you add all of that up, you add up any value that you have on your treasures, if you've gotten any, and then you look at however many coins that you have left, and for every 3 coins you have, they are worth 1 point. If somehow there is a tie, whoever has the most coins is the winner. If there is still a tie, whoever has the fewest curses is the winner. And so that's it. That's how this game works. It's actually fairly simple. So what do I think about this game? What do I like? Well, before I can tell you that, I do have to say, if you're thinking to yourself, wow, that sounds a lot like Sheriff of Nottingham, you're right. It does. It uses a lot of the same mechanics. The difference mostly being that there is no rotating sheriff in this game. There is no argument and debate that you're kind of forced into with Sheriff of Nottingham. In this game, it's very simple. Two players, they say, this is what I think this is what I'm giving you. Do you think I'm giving you that? Yes or no? Boom, done, move on. Whereas in Sheriff, everyone has their lie of what they're trying to sneak by the sheriff, and they have to convince the sheriff that that is what's in there, or bribe the sheriff, and there's just a little more role play, for want of a better word, and interaction in that game. So this is a different themed with some different mechanics. There's the market there, and you're buying stuff into your tableau, and you're playing open tableaus. But all in all, this is, again, it's a bluffing game, and they are both very similar. And so I know the next question that you have is, well, why would I get Guardian's Call if I already have Sheriff of Nottingham? Is there a place for both of these games on my shelf? And the answer, I think, is yes, because this, to me, is the big difference. And I promise I'm going to talk about specifically what I like about Guardian's Call in a second. The difference here is Sheriff of Nottingham, to be fun and to really realize its potential, I think you need people who are willing to dive into the various characters and become the sheriff, become the bread merchant, or whatever it is you're doing, and then you have the interaction as you talk with the sheriff, and you talk with other players, and you bribe, and you lie, and you try to raise suspicion on somebody else while pulling it away from yourself. That's how that game shines. As you put on your voices, or whatever it is that you do, and become super, super, super nerdy. Now, for me, and the people that I will play Sheriff of Nottingham with, that's not hard, that's not intimidating, but I am an actor. Literally, I am a card-carrying actor. So I'm all about that. That's one of my jobs. I love doing that. Some people have no desire to do that. And that brings me to Guardian's Call. Guardian's Call does not force that interaction. If that's an intimidating interaction to you in Sheriff of Nottingham, this is your game. Now, that does not mean that there cannot be that interaction. When we were playing, I was Whittle 3 of the Paladin, and we were playing and doing our voices and going back and forth and making our offers and having a good time. But while that, to me, raised the fun level of this game, it didn't make it for me. In Sheriff of Nottingham, I find it a very dull, boring game if you're not doing that. And you can agree or disagree with me on that. So putting that out there to get to the idea that many people have, well, why on earth should I get this over Sheriff? Well, there's a big reason. Now, what do I like specifically about this game? Yes, the bluffing mechanic is there. The bluffing, the deceit, it's fun, it's enjoyable. When you get busted, it's hilarious. When you trick somebody, you get to feel really smug. And it's just fun and light and silly. Other things that I really like. First off, I would be remiss if I did not say how much I love the artwork. I think the character art is just fantastic. I love it, love it, love it. I also am a big fan that there is diversity here. I'm a big fan that the female characters are not out there in chainmail bikinis. That's all awesome and necessary, I think, in today's age. And the production of this game is super, super high. That is something that Druid City Skybound Games just does. If you watch the unboxing I did of this, the organizers, fantastic. Everything's just great about it. These minis have some nice detail. It's always hard to see on the camera. But, there's nice detail, and, they're sturdy minis. I'm not worried about them breaking. It's well done. I also really, really like that you cannot keep making offers to the same person over and over and over again. Until you've made offers to everybody, you don't get to flip these back over. So what that does, in effect, is we all know that some people are just not good at bluffing, and they're not good at figuring out when people are bluffing, or some people are really good at bluffing, and what it does is it keeps people from just making offers to the same person over and over again. It's just so necessary, and I love that that's in there. I also like that there is a built-in catch-up mechanic. When you don't get an offer, you get money. And even if you are a terrible, terrible bluffer, and you're always getting called out on it, and you're not getting the cards, you're able to use these coins and buy stuff directly from the market and put it in your tableau. Or even more effectively, you're able to spend 5 coins and get rid of a curse and just make 5 victory points right away. It's a way that you are able to stay in the game. I also like these quests and how the quests really give you something that you might be trying to go for in the tableau. You're going to try to engineer your tableau so you can take advantage of those various bonuses. I think the treasures are very cool. You throw out these artifacts and you get something that'll get you some points, but then it also is going to get you some kind of cool benefit as well. That is also really cool. And moving on, in general, the scoring at the end of the game. I like how varied it is for each different thing that you're bringing in. Shields, you just want to have a lot of them, but don't get more than 5 because that's kind of useless. Weapons, get as many as you can, or don't go for weapons. Either way, the villagers, you're moving up that track. If you are the first person and you get all the way to the end, you just got 5, 10, 15, 25, 35. If you rocket up that track, you're going to wind up with 35 points at the end. That could be a lot of points. So there's lots of different ways that you're able to gain points in the game. I like all of that. And I also like the theme behind the game. When I first saw the game, I was like, oh, that's awesome art. And I was like, oh, a bluffing game? I don't know if that makes sense. But the story behind it makes sense. And it's kind of this very selfish hero thing, which is kind of interesting, kind of fun. And so I do think that works as far as a theme goes. Now, that's going to transition me into the things that I think could have been a little bit better. And I'm going to start with the theme. I've already said I adore this character art. It's awesome. I like it so much. And the minis are cool. I wish I knew more about these characters. All I know about the characters is her name is Zira, she's a priestess, and she looks badass. That's it, that's all I got. And I wish I knew more about them. Who are they? Why are they a hero of the realm? And at the same time, each hero, while they are a little asymmetric, in that if in an offer, the type of item that you want is in there, you gain extra coins, that's really valuable. I do wish that they had abilities that kind of evoked who they are. What those would be, I have no idea. But again, not a designer, so I can just say what I wish I had. And at the same time, talking about these minis, which again, I think are cool, I like them, I wish I had a little more to do with them. They just kind of move up the track, so they're completely unnecessary. Am I complaining about having an unnecessary mini that's pretty detailed and cool? No. But I just kind of wish I had a little more to do with that. And then the last thing that is a little bit of a miss for me is the artwork on the treasures and the quests. They're all the same, and it's fine. This is a nice looking card, but I wish I knew what the sigil of the Guardians looked like. Deadly blades. I would love to see 3 super deadly blades on there. Now, is that ruining the game? Of course not. Would that have made the game probably far more expensive? Probably, and I don't know, but it would have been nice. And so that's it. This is a fun game. I will also say that it does not play as well at 2 players. You certainly can play it at 2 players, but it really starts to shine with 3, 4, or 5 because then you have a lot more people you're making offers to, and the castle track is much more interesting, and the scoring of the weapons is more interesting because then someone's not going to get points for weapons, and things like that. It's fun, 2 players, better with more. All in all, like I just said, this is a fun game. And the most important thing that I can say about this is if you like fantasy, you like great character art, you like high production value, and you like bluffing games, this is a game that must be on your radar. And I do think that to really enjoy this game, because clearly Sheriff of Nottingham is the most well-known bluffing game that's out there. This is a very different game, but it comes down to one very simple thing that I think you have to look at, have to ask yourself is, do you want to be the sheriff? Do you want to be extorting other players for money? Do you want to be doing that kind of thing? Because if you don't do that and drop into character, for my money, it just becomes arguing, and that's not fun. So if that's something that's intimidating to you, then my goodness, this is your game, because it takes that required interaction out of the game. You can do it, but you don't have to. Sheriff of Nottingham is a exponentially better game if you become the characters and interact. Guardian's Call is a better game if you do that, but not exponentially. I think this is a cool game. I think it's worth checking out. I will also just throw out there that I got to meet James Hudson very briefly at Origins, and he's a really cool guy. He's a nice guy, he seems genuine, and lately I've been putting that out there that these are the kinds of people that I think we need to be supporting, the people who are doing it right, who are kind, care about the hobby, and are genuine. All in all, it's a cool game. So as always, if I made any mistakes in the gameplay explanation, please let me know with the timestamp and I will get that in the Klingon subtitles. If there's anything else that you think I could have done better, please let me know in the comments and I will do my best in the future to make sure that happens. If you enjoyed this video, if you found it useful, please give us a like, subscribe, share it, because I have a whole bunch more previews, reviews, unboxings coming the rest of the summer. As always, thank you so very much for watching. Have a wonderful, wonderful day.